Well, it's that time of day, folks. Time for another guest who has a topic to talk about for today's
Guest with a question.
Today we have Mathew Friend, and he is here to discuss gender relations and religion in a famous speculative fiction called The Handmaid's Tale. Welcome, Mathew.
Hi, Rob.
So, Mathew, can you explain to the audience what The Handmaid's Tale is and what your discussion will be about?
Well, Rob, The Handmaid's Tale, as you mentioned, is a work of speculative fiction that is based in our world in the US, but with a lot of key differences. The government has been taken over by a mysterious cult called Jacob's Seed, mentioned in the TV series. There is a massive war going on throughout the book between the government-controlled cult and rebels, and women's rights are being mostly taken away. That is the macro story of the novel grossly simplified. But the micro story is one of a woman called Offred who is trying to survive and rebel against this cult. The society works around the beliefs of the cult, and they have a hierarchy where men are the ones at the top. In this discussion, I will talk about religion and gender relationships in this novel and how they relate to our society. Offred is an interesting character, and she represents the greatest struggle in her society. The book is presented from a first-person perspective with an unreliable voice, that being Offred's voice. Atwood uses this technique to keep us guessing about how true Offred's story is. One struggle is the gap between men and women and the general oppression everyone experiences in the society. Life was not always like this for Offred, as indicated in her flashback. I got a better apartment after that, where I lived for 2 years. It took Luke to pay himself loose. I paid for it myself, with my new job. Atwood has made use of Offred's reflection on her former life to show the rights that have been eroded by the upper echelons of Gilead, such as the ability to have a career and her own apartment. This is said by Offred's boss once society was rolling over to the command of Jacob's Seed. "I have to let you go," he said. "It's the law. I have to." Women's rights were being changed to form the society called Gilead, where Offred lives. She not only lost her job, she lost her original name, which is never stated in the book. She lost her child, her husband, her house, and all of her freedom. Margaret shows that religion can be used to oppress women. This inequality between men and women is a direct result of the cult. I believe this is a reference to Muslims, as their religion is similar in that they also oppress women, so that they can't rise in ranks as much as men can. The burqa, for example, oppresses women because they are not allowed to show their face at all, even their eyes. Though this is a choice for the husband, they decide what the woman wears, but at the very least they must wear the hijab to hide a woman's hair from anyone but their husband. The handmaids have to wear red dresses and white wings to hide their face and body, which shows us how similar these two religions are. This is a translation from the most popular version of the Quran. Men are in charge of women by right of what Allah has given one over the other and what they spend for maintenance from their wealth. But those wives from whom you fear arrogance first advise them, then if they persist, forsake them in bed, and finally strike them. In the Quran, men control and are allowed to beat women. I will state that people are trying to change the Quran so that men have less control on women. In The Handmaid's Tale, it is not quite as serious as a gap, because men are not allowed to beat women in the book, but much like the Quran can control them. Here's another quote from the book. "They seem underdressed. It has taken so little time to change our minds about things like this. Then I think, I used to dress like that. That was freedom." This shows us how similar the religion is to Islam. The main difference between these two religions is that Jacob's Seed uses a form of Christianity to oppress women. Atwood's point is that any religion can come to this point of oppression. Margaret lists this as a problem, and she points at religions in that state of oppression in today's society. Gender relationships in The Handmaid's Tale are dictated by the religion, but men are always the oppressors in societies like Gilead. The society is a patriarchy, which means it is controlled by men. Though the wives of the commanders and the aunts have a significant amount of power, the highest power, that is commandership, can only be achieved by men. Atwood makes the society this way to reflect on how our society was before the 1900s and how it still is in parts. For example, women were not allowed to vote and had less privileges than men in Australia and America. To this day, gender politics is a hot debate, and it could be argued that women still have less privileges than men. Atwood shows what true oppression of women would look like in her book and how lucky we are to be in a country that supports women's rights so much. Another thing that Atwood shows, though, is the other side of politics, saying that women are already equal in today's society and that they get certain privileges that men don't. For example, women playing professional football got paid less than their male counterparts. There is a few reasons for this. Women are less inclined than men to play football because they are weaker than men, and they are likely to have babies, which would interfere with their career. Another reason is that women's football hadn't been running for that long, so people had less interest in it. Currently, women are getting 60% of the income of men. This is an incredible feat, especially when you consider men started playing football professionally. Their income was much less than that. People are still pushing for women to have the same income as men. This is near impossible from a business perspective, but people see it as a way for men and women to be equal. The whole point of this example is to show that when people are constantly provoked to make men and women equal, even though they pretty much are, might make society backlash against the idea of women's rights. Atwood shows this by the change in society that happens when a group of men from a cult decide to take over society, and their cause did gain people and power. Atwood uses her book to show what society used to be and what it could be in relation to gender politics. Overall, Atwood highlights problems in today's society in many ways. Maybe not Australia as much as third world countries, but she does show what can happen to a peaceful society like the US when a religion is changed and used to abuse power. She also highlights the area of gender politics in today's society, what is wrong with it, and how it could be much worse.
Very interesting. Thank you for coming today, Matthew.
Thanks for having me, Rob.